Welcome to the Motivate, Lead and Inspire podcast. My name is Hakeem Onibudo Impact, and in these episodes we discuss the relevant challenges facing young people in the UK, which are initially aired on my Thursday evening radio show on colourfulradio.com. Be sure to visit www.facebook.com/Hakeem Mr. Impact, that's MR for Mr, where you'll find the rest of my podcasts. Have a great day.
So you've embarked on a career as, I can't remember the full title. I see you as a social media expert.
There you go. There you go.
And what was the first was there a moment when you went, right, that's it, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to go freelance? Or did it just all of a sudden you looked around and you was like, oh, I'm doing stuff? And
no, do you know what it was?
I am my own business.
It was actually a conscious decision. And It was one, if I'm totally honest, because sharing is caring, that I made too early, a little bit too early, not in terms of my expertise, but while I was studying, I did some internships and did a lot of social media work during the summers and a little bit around my studies. By third year, you have to write your dissertation and it took up too much of my time, so I stopped. But because of that, I was able to get a job quite soon out of uni. And I remember, again, talking about degrees, the lady who interviewed me, this was doing social media for a fashion company, actually looked me in my eyeballs and said to me in the interview, I am hiring you not because of your degree. I couldn't care less about the degree. It does not interest me. I'm hiring you because of your work experience and your commitment to, you know, going out there and finding experience and building on your work experience. That's what she said to me. And so, yeah, I got that job, and then through just my own passion and kind of word of mouth, that company was a fashion company. They had freelancers there who had other businesses. So the guy who did the website there was doing this other ticketed event, and he needed help with it. And he said, I can see you're doing their social media. Maybe you could help me with this. And then he had friends who owned businesses. So I was building a freelance career just off of that. And he was mentoring me and telling me how much more money and freedom there is in freelancing. And so I did make the conscious decision. This was after about 3 or 4 years at this company. I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave this company. I'm going to hand in my my resignation and move into freelancing. What I didn't do, that I would always recommend anyone does, and it's kind of like rule 101 of freelancing, is to make sure that you've got at least 6 months of wages, of rent, of whatever it is that you're doing at the time, saved up, because it takes a while to get a business off the ground. And with freelancing, it can be hit and miss, especially when you're doing it for smaller businesses like I am. Sometimes there's cash flow issues, sometimes they have a slow month, and to be honest, the freelancers you're going to be one of the first people to go, because they've got to pay, you know, their actual employed staff and look after their business. So that was something that I didn't do straight off the bat. And so after a few months, I saw my money dwindling and actually had to go back to working part-time. Luckily, the year I'd taken off school, I had developed some skills as a barista. So I went back to doing coffee work.
Barista, not barrister, yeah?
But
carry on.
Barista, not barrister.
Sorry, this is Hakeem being
I wish.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was actually a little bit disheartening for me. I thought I'd hung up my apron for good. So it was a lesson. It was a life lesson, and a poignant one at that. But slowly but surely I managed to build it up again and get to the point I'm at now. But yeah, it was a conscious decision, but one that I should have been a bit more patient with and waited a few months, I think, saved up a bit more.
What challenges are you facing other than the fact... No, let's be more explicit. Female, black... What are your experiences when you go and see clients or people for the first time? How are you being perceived? And what have you learned from some of your positive and negative experiences that you can pass out to the rest of the world? In terms of someone who's starting out, or maybe, you know what it's like when you first start out and you're trying to build up your client base.
Yeah.
It's the chicken or the egg. You know, if you don't have a portfolio, how do you get a portfolio?
Yeah.
And you're going home and you're feeling like, oh my God, just give me a chance.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's just give me a chance.
Absolutely.
So just give us a little snapshot of what's happened to you in terms of the last few years.
Sure. I think it's something I'm always aware of, especially when I'm going to to meet people who I've not known before, because a large portion of my business comes from word of mouth or people I've had conversations with, and it's got into, what do you do? Oh, I need help with that. Maybe this, that, and the other. So then
that's how we met, right?
Exactly. But when it's completely someone fresh, I do often wonder if they're expecting me when I walk through the door.
Really?
Yeah, there's always that question. And so I think I can only do the very best that I can do. I can only show up, and I know that I do good work and that I'm professional and that I've got nothing to kind of worry about in that respect. So I try not to even let it be a thing too much, because in my head, I'm going to show up, I'm going to, represent myself very well, I'm going to speak eloquently, I'm going to listen, I'm going to put my expertise forward. And if that person who I'm meeting with has an issue because of their own, they've got personal issues, there's not too much that I can do about that. So I try not to let it impact me. And that's kind of my everyday approach, I think, when it comes to issues of race and feminism and that kind of thing. I'm aware of it. I'm definitely aware if it's happening. I know it's, it's going on, but I don't let it prohibit me from doing things, because to me, that's their problem. That's not my problem to take on. I think I've been brought up, by my parents. When you're young and growing up as a young black child, I think there's always the message of kind of putting your best foot forward. You want to be smart, and because people will not all people, but there are some people who will underestimate you or have come in with certain predetermined notions about you if they're that way minded. And so you're kind of taught to overcompensate a little bit just to make up the difference. So I'm always smart, but I think I'm smart. I try and show up smart because I'm smart. I try and show up on time because that's how you should be professionally. Definitely. So I try not to let it affect my behavior too much. A, because it's negativity that I can't really control, so why am I going to let it impact my day? And B, because why should I have to change my behavior, my mannerisms and that sort of thing for someone else's ignorance? So it doesn't, I try not to let it feed into me too much. And I'm lucky to say that I haven't had any significant experiences.
Bad experiences?
No, where I think, oh, that was because of that, or I've had like negative experiences as a freelancer, but I've never put it down to that.
What about how long would you say your freelance career has been? How long?
About, where are we now? 2019. About 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, about 5 years.
Would you say that there was a particular time in that 5 years where you, and I'm just asking these questions openly, they're not loaded, but is there a time where you thought, I need to pack this in? Was there a time where you felt low, or you felt I'm not going to be able to get to where I want to get to? Was there a time where you're like, this is not what I thought it would be?
I've never thought about giving it up completely. There's definitely been times when I thought, oh, this is hard. Like I said, I came out of the gate, I was young, I was fresh. I was like, I'm going to hand in
my... Hard from what sense? Financially?
Yeah, financially. Yeah, right. Definitely financially.
So it's never been about the work?
What do you mean never been about the work?
It's never been... Sorry, let me rephrase that because that could be misinterpreted. It's never been... The challenges have never been about the expertise, the work level you've got to put in. Has it more been about the financial, not getting enough money, cash flow? I think both, because I'm a people pleaser and I was always brought up to kind of do my best and put my best foot forward. Right.
And it's funny, when you're freelancing, you have to kind of balance everything. And I, in the beginning, I think made the mistake of, I've only got a couple of clients, let me spend all my time doing everything I possibly can to make them happy. And are they happy? And when you're working for yourself, you're in a home office, you're not necessarily underneath the person you're working for all the time in the same way you are when you're employed and you've got a manager and you're having kind of meetings and that sort of thing about your performance. When you're doing things remotely and you're emailing, you're like, oh, that email's a bit brief, maybe they're annoyed at me, maybe I should have done more.
Oh, really?
And so I in the beginning really used to kind of struggle internally.
Paige, you're nodding your head. Is this the struggles of young black women? How they sit and they write emails and think,
yeah, because you can't read tone all the time for an email. Yeah. So if you had that, like, for example, the correspondence has been like kind of paragraphs or like big things, and then you get a one line or two line, you're like, oh gosh.
No.
And you start thinking, what did I say?
Yeah. But it might just be the fact that they just didn't have time to write any more than that.
Usually
but you start to analyze it.
Yeah.
And is that because you're not around the person? Is it because you're like, I mean, in your case, you're isolated. Well, not isolated. That sounds really sad, but you know what I mean?
It feels like that sometimes.
The whole Billy No Mates thing keeps coming up. It's going to be the running joke this evening. But is that because you're not seeing that client every day, so you don't know how they're feeling?
Yes, it's exactly that. Yeah, and and I have to remind myself, I'm a small cog in a very big machine of their business, and the whole idea is I'm taking this off their hands, so they're not thinking about me every day. So if I haven't heard from them, or they've sent a short email, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're annoyed. Maybe that's all there is to say, and actually I'm running things fine. And I do have regular meetings, and then I'll have a meeting and they're really warm, and I'm like, oh, they're actually really happy. I was driving myself crazy for no reason. So I think that's definitely something, going back to your question, that I struggle with, and the balance of doing enough and doing what I've pitched, and not doing too much to where I can't expand my business, and where I'm spending all of my time on one client and not, because you have to think about it as a business, and that just getting your head around that and the shift from being an employee, you're not just a freelancer, but you're actually running a business, and you have to think about business development and how am I going to earn more, and what's my 5-year plan, and how does that fit into it. Right now I'm thinking about actually employing other people to take some of the more simple tasks off of my plate so that I can level up. And when you're by yourself as a freelancer, you're a one-man band, you don't have the manager coming to you saying, do you know what, you're doing really good work, you deserve a promotion. You have to give yourself that promotion, and that can be a lot of stress to take. So that's the sort of thing that I've struggled with. And then the financial side as well. What is next month going to look like? What if this client, decided that they didn't need my help tomorrow? How is that going to impact me? How am I stacking things up for the future? So it's a lot to juggle, as well as just doing the work for people on time and professionally and that sort of thing. I think, going back to your other question as well, although I think I try not to focus too much on being black or a black woman going into a meeting, I think age is something that I definitely have, I think, been underestimated with before, especially beginning when I started out freelancing. I was maybe about 23, 24. And I think, you get a lot of people who are a bit cynical, I think, as to, well, do you know your stuff? And you speak to them and they don't know anything about social media, but they still somehow don't have the confidence, or they're skeptical as to whether or not you can do what you can do. And it's only once you say, let's do a trial, let's do a month, see how it works. Actually, like, oh, you actually know a lot more than I thought you did.
It's a bit of a Mickey take, that one, isn't it? But I mean, at the end of the day, they're guarding their money and stuff like that. But there is an element of, this young person just walk into my office, what can they do for me? I get that. I'm going to ask this question to both of you. What habitual what habits have you taken into yourselves which you feel are building blocks of your success? Like, what sort of, and I don't mean habits, I don't want to get too kind of like, Excel spreadsheet, do it, like get to, but just like, it could be, without putting words into your mouth, it could be that, I always do a to-do list kind of thing. What kind of habits would you say have been the backbone of your successes, the both of you, that you can pass on to people who are listening right now, or anyone who listens to this on a podcast? What would be 3 things that are really important to how you function on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis, and they've really helped you? It's quiet.
No, I'll jump in. I'm a creature of habit, so I love this question because I've got so many things, and I've always got lists to remind me of these habits, because there's so many things that I think, do you know what, when I do that, things go well for me. So one of them, I think, is mindfulness, and I actually keep diaries that I write into every week at least.
What do you write in them?
Just
what do you write?
What do I write? So I'll write about how my week has been, everything, how my week has been. If I've had a really successful week, had a successful meeting, I'll just write how I feel, and then I find myself noting, well, what is it that led to it being successful? Was there anything that I felt that I did that week that set me up for that? And same if I have a bad week, if I'm not motivated, if I'm struggling with time, I'll make a note and just literally write down my emotions. And it might be the most random thing. Oh, I woke up in a bad mood today, I'm not feeling motivated. Or it might be something really specific, like I was time blocking today and that really helped me. But I find that documenting it really then helps me to go back and reread it and find the patterns that are helping me to be successful and repeat them, and also find the negative patterns I maybe slip into.
See my face page, I'm like,
Yeah.
And avoid them as well. So yeah.
no, you haven't answered, but I'll just interject for a minute. It's funny because I'm trying to. That's kind of like, wow, really interesting. But then I checked myself and I said, well, I do that, but I don't do it like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have reflection periods.
Yes.
Like Sunday's my reflection period.
Yes.
I sit there and I think, all right, I'm going to a new week. Before I go into a new week, what happened last week?
Yes.
What went right? What went wrong? And then you delve deeper. If something went wrong, why did it go wrong?
Yeah.
What did I do as a result of it going wrong? Whatever wrong means.
Yeah.
What was the learning from it? What did I learn from it? What can I, because there's always some learning from doing something wrong.
Always.
Like, people see disasters or things not going right as like, oh, guys, it's the end of the world. No, actually, that's the start of the learning. That's how I look at it. Then obviously I look at the positive things as well, because I think something you mentioned earlier, you didn't really go into depth about it, but sometimes we're so kind of keen and eager to move on to the next thing, to the next thing. We don't stop and go, well done for achieving that thing.
Absolutely.
Really important.
Absolutely.
Just like a pat on the back. Well done for achieving that. Maybe, you have your favorite drink, and I don't mean an alcoholic drink. It could just be like a glass of milk or whatever it is. And you take that moment to go, because what that does, that reinforces success.
Absolutely.
And what it means is, like, next time when you're having a tough time, rather than your brain goes, well, there's nothing to point to that is going to get us through this, you actually go, but I got through this on the other time. You know what I mean? You don't make a big thing of it, but the subconscious will tell you. I think that's really, really important. But I guess my point is that it was really interesting when you talking about writing that, because I don't think I could write down all my thoughts, and that the book would be too big anyway, like so many thoughts go. But I was trying to kind of actually work out what is it that you were doing, and I guess it's just a case of reflection.
Yeah, it is. It's a reflection. I just write it down because like you said, you move on to the next thing. Good, bad, you'll move on. And I'm not always very good at remembering feelings and remembering, because there's so many lessons, life lessons. I've got Pinterest boards with quotes, and it's only when I come back to the board and read it, I'm like, oh, that's such a good life
But here's
mantra.
a question.
Yes.
Here's a question for you.
Yes.
Do you read on a regular basis?
I do.
What do you read?
I am a big self-help
So you do.
person.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot. You're laughing. Pages is like,
I am laughing.
because my big mottos is like, people come to me and say, oh, how can I be better? And I ask them, do you read? And they look at me like, yeah, I read. And I ask, what do you read? Oh, I read this, I read that, novels and that. I was like, that's cool. But do you read any PMA books, positive mental attitude books?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh. And I said, well, for me, where you'll be in 5 years will be determined by the books you read and the people you associate with.
Absolutely.
Boom. That's what I always tell people. It's so true. Like, if you associate with the wrong people, putting in that negativity into your mind all the time and telling you you're not no good at anything.
Your vibe is your tribe.
Your vibe is your tribe. Love that one as well. It's not going to happen. Sometimes, you know what's really hard? The people that actually put in the negative into you are the people supposed to be the closest to you.
Yes, it's
and sometimes
true.
we have to cut them off. Then there's a big, you don't talk to me no more. We don't see, But you know what? You're actually trying to keep your sanity.
Yeah.
But the other thing is books. Books is really important because we are being bombarded hourly with negativity.
Yes.
We don't turn on the news and someone says, oh, someone just cut their grass and they've made an amazing zigzag shape. No, you're getting told that we've got 1 in 3 chance of being in recession. Someone got killed on the side of the street. You know what I mean? So you're being bombarded with negativity, so that when you're in a negative environment yourself, you say, I can't do this. So you've got to kind of almost fill the negative void with positive thoughts.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.